best short-term buy signals on TradingView with the scarf pump. But one of the best, actually the best medium and long-term buy signal is when John Vallis visits us on Toxic Happy Hour. 30th of November last year, where we were just at all-time high. We actually discussed with John whether that was an all-time high or not, because there was some different opinions on the price. The next thing that happened, Bitcoin went more than 3x. So John Vallis on Toxic Happy on your all-time high is a strong 3x minimum expectation in my point of view. Anyways, good morning and welcome to Toxic Happy Hour, where we are toxic towards scams that delay the adoption of global sound money. Pubby, John, welcome to the show. John, what are you drinking today and how's it going?
It's going great. It's great to be back with you boys, and it was awesome to hang out, notably at the bar at Bitcoin 2021. It's 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. for me, so I'm hydrating now. I had a bit of a big night a couple nights ago, so and I apologize if I look a little scary here. I recently got squeezed a little too hard around the neck, and I think I busted a blood vessel in my eye. But other than that, everything is good.
What happened, you said?
I was at jiu-jitsu. I'm pretty sure. I didn't notice it till later in the day, but I think someone was hanging on my neck a little bit too hard, and my eye couldn't take it.
Jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. There you have it. John takes punches. He doesn't even feel it. You know, come at me, Chuck Norris, is what John says. Puppy, man, what's going on?
No, what John's not telling you is he was sparring with Katie the Russian, and yeah, she's beating the hell out of him. All good here, man.
She looks dangerous. I like it.
Yeah, she's legit. Just having a little pale ale in the afternoon. Yeah, looking forward to this. And yeah, man,
I can't believe it's almost been a year.
No,
well, it feels like 5, man. Bitcoin time, and you have all these people.
I know.
You have all these people on, and I love how you say, "How does it affect your life?" The single biggest thing for me is my sense of time is just totally screwed up right now. Things that I have, I was joking in the space. Yeah, I feel like I've known Michael Saylor for 30 years. He's a crazy uncle.
I know.
That dude's only been here since last August, man.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, Bitcoin time really is like a time warp of some kind. And yeah, just thinking about like it was only a year ago since the whole Saylor phenomenon popped off, and it's crazy, man. But I love it. It's great.
Yeah. So last year, you said fuck me already, Bitcoin, and you got us over 20,000, and that seems so quaint right now.
Well, it does. You know, it was teasing us for so long. That was the motivation of the tweet. Like it was just tickling us, and I was like, let's do this thing. And so I don't know if we're gonna be so if it's gonna play with us so much this time. It seems like we might just push right on through without much resistance.
Yeah,
a lot of tailwinds happening.
absolutely. And now with the ETF that may or may not get what's it called, approved.
Approved.
But I guess it was such a short time frame from the rumor till the actual potential approval day this week potentially, and therefore I don't think that will be a sell the news days myself personally. But what about you, John? What's your expectations for Q4 here?
I mean, the problem with me is I'm always so ridiculously bullish that I can't really even believe the price is as low as it still is. So I'm always expecting it to like pop at any moment, I guess. And I don't really have any basis for specific price predictions, but it's certainly. I mean, there's a lineup of ETFs ready to go, right? And that would seem to be like a dam about to break for institutional money coming into the space. To say nothing of what that type of Bitcoin, that white label, bullshit, way of owning Bitcoin actually is, but probably a lot of money to come into the space. But there's always looming in the background, like, is there and will there be and when will it be, the broader market sell-off where like the everything bubble pops, and how much kind of will Bitcoin be influenced by that? So I mean, I think we all feel like Bitcoin is going to go on a pretty big run here over the next 3 to 6 months. But anything can happen in Bitcoin. That's what makes it so exciting. You know, it's a fickle mistress. You can't really get a handle on it.
Absolutely.
But I'm telling everybody in my life to, like, it's time to stop fucking around. You know, things are getting real crazy in the world, and this is the life raft. And I know it seems expensive. Who gives a fuck? Get in.
The dream of owning one full Bitcoin is going to be out of reach for 99.9999% of the population in like a matter of months, I think.
I mean, what's the stat on, like, 50% of Americans only have $400 in their bank account or something? So, like,
Yeah.
60 grand is already pretty fucking out of reach for most people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But, you know, when you were talking about, you know, if we're talking about breaking through all-time high, we sit here once a year, this time of year. So I'm just thinking, you know, maybe next year we'll sit here and see, can we go through 500,000 again, or are we just going to hang around? I mean, it is just Bitcoin is a parabolic move that is unstoppable. We're heading into hyper Bitcoinization in just a few years, I think. Pubby, what do you think?
Yeah, man. So it's hard to explain. You know, it's cool to see this new generation of people come in. And when you're talking about prices like this, okay, you're talking about what seems ridiculous. You know, I look at it and what feels like when people were saying this is a bear market. Now, those of us that have gone through a bear market, this never had the feel of it. And it's hard to explain, but it's when you've been here long enough, you get a feeling for certain things. So we found out from that run up from 20 to 60, you find out, you know what, a lot of people got leverage. And when you get leverage, you get wrecked. And there was no bailout. And thank God there was no bailout, because this is what a true market looks like. And yeah, it took us 6 months to recover from all of that. Yeah, I'm bullish as anything. I'm laughing because, you know, people talk about, oh man, 6 figures. Because I had told someone 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, I had said it'll be 6 figures by the end of this year. And they didn't believe me, and they wrote it down. They wrote it down in a note on their phone. And I see them every once in a while still. But when you think about this, when we get like just 100, okay, 100,000, okay, 200,000, we just did a 12x, a 12x, dude, in a year and a half. You know, just a 10x from here puts you at $600,000 Bitcoin, man. We just did it in a year and a half. So these numbers, I know they seem preposterous, but that's just the nature of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some hullabaloo around 100K, right? Because it's another one of those benchmarks, and of course the party and all that jazz. But
Oh,
100K,
yeah.
I'm not even sure it'll. You know, it's like, you know, that meme where the guy's staring at his computer in one frame, and then the next frame he's holding up like the flowers to celebrate, and then the next frame he's back to just staring at his computer. Like, I feel like it's going to be like that, because it's still 100K is still so early in this thing. It's so early, like,
So,
you know. So we'll have our fun on the way, I'm sure. But, you know, after 100K, it's like, all right, 500K. That's the next, you know, target of a million or something. So
as someone who had to ride down that bear market, you know, starting at 17, 18,000 at the end of 2017. And when you go and your dollar cost averaging down under 4,000, then it goes up to 13, then it's back down to 5. You're numb. I become numb to any number. Like I feel at 50,000, I felt nothing, nothing. And I know 100,000, I'm still going to feel nothing, because I know where it's been, and it's hard to explain unless you go through those types of those ups and downs.
Yeah,
yeah, totally. And I think many of us are so much more like, the price is fun and exciting, and it's an indicator of how much this is emerging on the world. But so many of us get more excited by, you know, looking at adoption, seeing how the Lightning Network is growing, look at what's happening in El Salvador, seeing how more people are waking up to just how fucked the traditional legacy system is, and like, that's what's more, we're all like glued to Twitter watching. Not in my opinion, not so much. We all know it's going to go up to 100K, and then 500K, and then 1 million, and then 5 million. You know, it's kind of, if you can be certain about anything in the future, that's among, you know, the things you can be most certain about, as far as my perspective is concerned. But, you know, I'm a crazy Bitcoin bull, so I realize maybe not everybody shares that.
Right. It's like last year when we finally reached the 20,000. that was like everyone we're celebrating on Bitcoin Twitter, and it was a party going to 25, going to 27, etc. But coming from 65 all-time high and then going down to 40, you just feel like, oh, it's so cheap, you know. I felt poor. It's like, it's down to 40. Can't spend money now. Gotta buy more Bitcoin because it's on sale. It's yeah. We need all-time
Well, that's
highs
a sign of
to
a
have
true
dopamine.
believer. That's a sign of a true believer. Like I've never wanted the price to go up ever. Like so when we were down in like breaching 30, from 30 to 29 and 30, I was like, keep going, baby. Like because your regular stack, you get more Bitcoin, and that's the name of the game at the end of the day. If you really think this thing is inevitable, then getting more on the cheap is what you want. But I think unfortunately, in particular for people that are not getting on board yet, like the train is probably leaving the station to hit whatever increment you want. Like if the full Bitcoin has left the building, maybe now it's 10 million sats. That's the ultimate, that's the big goal for most people coming in. Right now that's $6,000, and a few years from now it'll probably be 60 grand, and then sats are going to be so sats are so precious, but man, it's going to be crazy looking back on these times. Like I can still shake my phone, like in ShakePay in Canada, I think in 19, maybe in 20, I would shake my phone and I get 10,000 sats every day just from shaking my phone because I built up the 100-day streak. And now they keep having to cut it, right? So I'm like on a 25-day streak right now because I kind of I keep forgetting it, but you get like 400 sats, I think, something like that. And I'm still like, I shake my phone every day. I'm like, oh my God, 400 sats, and I feel like my kids, grandkids are just their mind is gonna melt, just like the faucet back in the day, where you could get a Bitcoin or something like that from clicking a button. They're gonna think it's crazy. You can just shake your phone and get 10,000 sats. Like that'll blow their mind.
Dollar sat parity is coming, and for those who don't know that, it's like 1 sat equal $1. It's coming, but actually,
it could happen a lot faster than we all think too.
Yeah,
things really get out of control.
Yeah, I think this thing. I mean, the whole macroeconomic environment, how COVID has meant that they're just printing money into oblivion. I mean, you took QE and put it on steroids, and you're just handing money out hand over fist, and like forgetting that maybe you can't do that because sooner or later other governments around the world won't buy the sovereign debt because it won't have any value 10 years from now. I mean, and that's what Greg Foss talks a lot about. It's like, it's going to be that one moment where someone steps down and say, no, I'm not interested in buying bonds that I know will be worth nothing 10 years from now. Because if you print 40% more money every year, that's the way it's going. Prices are going up now. Like we have high inflation. And then once one steps back, it goes fast. And that could be, I think, hyper Bitcoinization and the trigger of that. But anyways, John, what you don't know is that we've invited you on today because Pubby and I need some free advice. Apart from enjoying hanging out with you, we want some free advice. And everybody knows we're amateurs. However, we are stepping up our game because when I'm having my coffee here, I now have my coffee next to me, so I don't have to go to the kitchen anymore. I got some milk. So we are stepping up. We are getting more professional. We want to take it to the next level, however. And in the green room before we started, you were telling us a little bit about your work at CT with their Gigi and other smart people that we're all, all of you, we look up to and admire for your capacity in this space and what you do. Tell us a little bit about what you do there and this whole Breeze thing and streaming sats. Like Pubby and I, we don't get that, but we know we see it's interesting, but we don't know what to do. Help us.
Right, sure. Well, I guess the first thing I'll say is I appreciate how precious sats are, right? So I'm by no means suggesting people should be parting with them, but I do think that the Lightning Network will be the thing that onboards the next billion plus people, right? People won't be, the investment case for Bitcoin is compelling for a certain cohort of people, but I think the Lightning case for Bitcoin will be compelling for pretty much everyone in the world, because it gives financial access and a lot of unique opportunities to like anyone who's connected to the internet and a smartphone, which is super cool. And so, CT is this subsidiary of the Acre Group in Norway, and they're, super orange pilled. And as you mentioned, Gigi's part of the team. It's amazing to work with him. He's a good friend of mine. And I'm helping them with their podcast. And basically what they want to do is twofold. Like, one, they want to talk to interesting people in the space and be a part of the industry and the ecosystem and that kind of thing. But they also want to actually like contribute to the evolution of the technology and make investments in the space. And one of the ways they've done that is in-house. They've been, the dev team has been working on podcasting 2.0, which is basically the ability to stream sats on the Lightning Network as you listen to podcasting, as you listen to podcasts. And, two immediate motivations or reasons for that is, one is because we're obviously living in an environment where censorship is like a really big concern. And if you say the wrong thing on any given day, you can be kicked off Restream, Zoom, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and we all know many people who that's happened to. And as the existing system crumbles, we're all probably going to be labeled, unmentionables in some way, and that means that eventually the censorship will come for us. And so this is about building out a system that's impervious to censorship. And then the second one is, the ad-based model, works for people, and we appreciate it, but we also are interested in the evolution of it. And if we can, this is let's say, iterating on a potential alternative to the ad-based model to see how people feel about it. And I guess the premise is like, would people rather a value for value model to say, if you listen to 10 minutes of a podcast, that's what you pay for, and you decide how much you pay. So if you're listening to a podcast you kind of like, maybe you select 1 sat per minute. You listen to 10 minutes, you pay 10 sats. Let's say you really like it, you pay 100 sats a minute, so you listen for 10 minutes, 1,000 sats. And so it's a different monetization model for media and content publishing. And so CT has been innovating on that. And one of the ways they've done that is now you can split a stream of sats, so per on an episode level rather than on a show level. So like if I did a show with Whit from Compass the other day, and I think he directed his stream to the Human Rights Foundation, but we could say, hey, let's bring in the Human Rights Foundation, and let's take some of what Joel Untapped is doing with his nonprofit, and then let's get the audio producer involved, and also the guest, and also me as the host, and let's split it 5 ways, the stream. And so in perpetuity, anytime anyone listens to that show on a Podcasting 2.0 app, the stream of sats will be split accordingly, which is super cool. It's like real syndication in perpetuity, right? So if 10 years later, if value for value and streaming sats is still a thing, then those sats will stream to all the people that initially contributed to the show. And so Breeze is a Lightning interface, a wallet, and does some other cool stuff. And they've implemented this podcasting 2.0 tech. And I believe they either have or they're about to integrate the per episode split, So when you're listening to the CT pod or any of a number of pods on Breeze, your streaming sats may be split, and you should be able to see, or at least that'll be coming, where the split is going. So to the host, to the guest, to a charitable organization or whatever. So, it's super early days, but it's just kind of an example of the ways that Lightning is going to enable different models of publishing and monetization that are freer. Bitcoin is freedom money, and it's bringing freedom to everything it touches. And this is just another example of that. And I'm super happy to be working with a team like, the team that is at CT. And I think it's super worthwhile work, because we are all going to be silenced at some point, or at least there's going to attempt to do that. Because the worse things get, and the tighter the control, the tighter the noose of the control, the more, the wider the net of things you can't say will become, right? And so right now we think we're saying a bunch of stuff that no one could possibly ever think was like worthy of censorship. But wind the clock back 10 years and you would have said that about a lot of the stuff that's happening, a lot of the reasons why people are being censored today. So if we want to maintain our ability to speak freely and communicate freely and make a living freely without anyone intervening on that, we have to develop the tech to do so. And so that's part of what CT is doing, and what the podcast is all about.
God, I love it. Puppy, listen,
Yeah.
we need to know from John, how do we start that? Because if there's one thing I think we would love, Puppy and I, is if we could buy, our time free from, our other obligations. Imagine if we could just do Toxic Happy Hour like full time. Although we're almost there, Puppy, right? So every Monday, after a tough summer, traveling schedules, everything, we're back to doing YouTube every Monday, 11 m PST, same timing, Tuesday to Friday, but on Toxic, not Toxic Spaces, Twitter Spaces, which Puppy has been absolutely blasting. What do you say, Puppy? Is this something we should look into?
Well, look, man, and that is the future. And I would never charge for Bitcoin content more than entertainment content. There's something I always felt. The amount of free content that was out there when I arrived here. Everyone, I mean, I think the Bitcoin standard had just been released, but aside from books, the guy, I'll call them OGs because it may have been 2014, 15, 16. The amount of content that people were putting out for free online was unbelievable. And because it was free online, I could sift through it and read it and educate myself. And I always felt this obligation to sort of continue that. For anyone that's new coming into the space, if there's anything we do as a show or now, like I say, when we're hosting spaces, that you can get some information out to people, I'd feel like a dick trying to charge somebody. That's like that whole blowback for the $850 geared towards just
No,
women.
listen, Puppy. No, and John, why don't you answer that? Because
I was just gonna say, like, I totally agree, and like I think it's amazing how much free content there is. But this is actually the distinction. It's not like a New York Times paywall pops up and says you need to pay your $15 a month subscription to read this.
True.
It's kind of like a better way of tipping. So it's like sure, you can have the content for free, and almost everybody makes it available for free. But it's also saying, like, if you feel like you want to contribute because you derive such value out of this that you want to contribute something back to the creator, here's an avenue to do so on a way that's perfectly in sync with how much you consume. So like I said, like, it's not like buying a monthly subscription. It's like I'm in the subway and I'm listening for 10 minutes. All right, I chipped in a little bit. Don't have to, not an obligation, and I think in most of those apps, you can stream nothing. So you could probably still or tiny, like 1 sat a minute or something like that. But the punchline is even like most of the content will be available on those platforms and the existing ones. But if a time does come where the monetization model is almost necessary because of the censorship, well then, first of all, you'll be glad it exists, and second of all, I think the cost barrier will be effectively nothing. It could be ratcheted down so low that it's really just a mechanism to maintain censorship resistance rather than to monetize in any particular way. But it's just about options. Maybe it won't work. Maybe a different way of monetizing and protecting content will emerge that's better. But you got to try it to know, right? So.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And there's a distinction. It's fully voluntary. It is fully, and I joke about this. Back on July 20th, because I use the Mayer multiple a lot when I'm looking about how much I want to stack. And if you remember on July 20th, $29,700.
I saw your tweet that day.
Yeah.
And you're like, guys, it ain't like 0.66 or whatever very often.
No, that like less than 1% of the time. I said you should be double and triple stacking. And anyone that did, you've already doubled your money, man, in less than 3 months. And that's why, I put that out once. I said, someone owns Pubby a goddamn beer, and sure enough, I get a notice on my strike account, and someone had sent like $8 and said, I bought. He goes, I bought. Believe it or not, I bought then. I bought then. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I mean, man, that's the whole thing. Like, I'm super excited about the emerging Bitcoin circular economy. Like, there's a tension, right? Because people are holding on to their sats so much because there's such a big opportunity cost of spending right now. But it's going to be so cool. Like once this 10x's and then 100x's, and it's already the case that like there's a lot of great small businesses in the Bitcoin community, like Crypto Cloaks and CoinKite and all these places that people are willing to spend money on. And it's going to be such like the products and services in this economy are going to be so great, you know, such high quality. And I do actually think like philanthropy, for lack of a better word, like actually just tipping people that you appreciate will become a much bigger thing, because one, people will have the means to do it, both the capital and the easy avenues of doing it, like tipping on Twitter or on a Lightning Network in some capacity. And like this community is one that the people that I've interacted with in and around Bitcoin, like are the type of people that I think are of that ilk, Pubby. They say like, hey, you did me a solid. I benefited from advice you gave, a tweet you made, a podcast you did. I want to pay it forward a bit. I know it's just a small token of my appreciation. Here's a beer. And, you know, that's super cool. And when that happens at scale, you know, really, really a lot of magic can happen, I think. And so I can't wait to see how it continues to unfold.
I totally agree. It's having that incentive model can really help create more quality content, because people will be willing to pay more for what they consider quality. And I think it's no different if you look what people paying fixed every month for Netflix, whatever. And, you know, I have a Netflix subscription. I haven't seen any there for a couple of months, I think, because things are getting interesting in this space. And if you can make it available and people choose, if they want to listen to it for free, go ahead. And if they want to, as you say, hey, I'll stream 1 sat per minute, that, you know, they can choose to do so. And yeah, I think it'll be really interesting.
I can't wait, you know, for Bitcoin to really moon, like you say, John, where those that have been here for some time, you have your sort of freedom to whatever kind of podcast we want to do, but also you find those groups you want to support, that are not only pro Bitcoin but sort of pro freedom. And I just want to segue, because I just listened to you with you had Untapped Growth on there, and damn, dude, that was amazing. Okay, and what the work that he's trying to do and bring and getting people to be, you know, being self-sovereign, even having a food supply that is outside the system. Those are the kind of things that would intrigue me. And those people I know that have Bitcoin, like, you know, you call them up, hey man, what do you need? I may not have a lot of time, but do you need some Bitcoin to help with another feature of what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And Joel is an incredible dude on so many levels. And I'm so excited about what he's attempting to build, and I want to avail of the solution he's building too, right? You know, because I think many of us recognize the dangers and how fragile supply chains and, you know, government overreach and all this stuff is these days. And we want to establish a more secure form of sovereignty in all of our lives. And that means having more control over your food supply and the jurisdiction in which you live and your access to necessary goods and stuff like that. And as you say, like once Bitcoin 10x is 100x is like this constituency becomes incredibly powerful, and this economy and market that is Bitcoin becomes incredibly big, which means the incentives just amplify tremendously, which means more people come in to try to provide value to this market, whether they be nation state or small businesses. Like they're going to be wanting some of that capital from the people that hold, you know, a lot of it. And that's great, because this comes to the kind of the namesake of this show, is what I love about what's going on is, and Joel is also a great example of this, is I think we feel this way about each other because we're all, Miami was a great example of this. Like, I'm sure this was the case with you guys too. Pretty much everyone you met, it was just like, you knew you were on the same wavelength, and it was just hugs and cheers and, you know, all sorts of just great vibes. You didn't have to explain anything. It just clicked immediately. And I think that's by virtue of the fact that, like, as we interact on these podcasts and on Twitter and stuff, like, one, we get to know each other, but two, we get to get a sense for what principles are emerging in this market or ecosystem. And we get to see who's trying to, you know, sneak in under those, you know, principles, who's trying to avoid them, who's adhering to them strongly. And I think, broadly speaking, like the quote unquote toxic Bitcoiners are the ones that are continue to enforce the importance of value of certain principles, act in accord with them, and hold other people to account to those same principles. And to me, it's super exciting because the fiat world we have today is like a complete abrogation of so many important, in my opinion, principles and values, right? It's like the antithesis almost in many ways. And I think Bitcoin is this emerging market, community, ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, that is actually like re-sanctifying these principles of honesty, authenticity, integrity, as ironic as it may sound, with some, like kindness and brotherhood and this kind of stuff. And, to see that continue to expand as all of this grows, I'm super excited by, and the relationships that we're able to have as a result. Like, how much richer do you guys feel as a result of the relationships you've been able to establish through, again, Twitter and this show and stuff like that, which manifested in Miami? Like, how much richer do you feel now that you have like 50, 100, 500 more people that you can call genuine friends now? Whereas 5 years ago, you had your high school, uni, work colleague buddies as your primary group. Like, it's just incredible. And so that's why I appreciate when people come into the space and the laser-eyed people give them the once-over, and some people, get spanked because they're not ready for it and they're not humble enough to come in, and other people get welcomed with open arms because they are. They say, hey, I'm here to try to figure out the truth of this thing and try to contribute to it, but I'm going to remain humble, and you guys have been here before, so it's just so obvious. You guys know what I'm talking about. Like, I'm not articulating it well, but it's so obvious when people come into this space. Like, are they coming in with integrity and honesty and those principles, or are they coming in with ulterior motives and trying to impose their shit on those of us that were here already? And it's just, I love how we continue to kind of be sticklers for those principles and making sure they're communicated to all.
Yeah, there's a lot that you saw. Just real quick, Andrew. There's a lot that you see. So, of course, when you started at first sense of like what a bull market is and things are going good, okay, my first thought, like people that were getting at 20 and see it go to 60. But yeah, this is a whole new realm of people that are coming into the space that are just the clout chasers, just want to pump follower counts. Who knows what their ulterior motives is. And that's why, we joke about, man, I missed the bear markets, because there's the bear markets. You found out who's really here, man. Who's here for Bitcoin? And you're right. When at the Bitcoin conference, when you had we've known these people for 3 years, man, 3 years, and you've been down in the doldrums. And I remember tweets where shit, I was like, I don't even know if it's going back down to 1,000. Some hyperwave bullshit. I don't know. And I'm thinking these are my kind of people, because all your friends that were naysayers, making fun of you for when you got, and then all of a sudden, these are the people that were with you. You found out who your true friends were at that time, and to see it, like you say, man, it was a big hug fest down there, and rightfully so, man. Because usually, most people, you barely have one IRL Bitcoin in your life. Most people don't. I get that a lot when I run spaces. People are like, man, I come here every day because I got no one. There's no outlet. There's no outlet for me. And I'd like to provide that outlet for people, man.
Yeah, and that's how when Pubby and I connected at the very bottom of the bear market around 3,000, I think like end of 18 or something, we found in each other a fellow friend to be bullish with and talk Bitcoin. We spoke a lot about Miami, so I feel it's relevant to just mention that, I think all three of us definitely are going again in April 6 to 9 next year of the Bitcoin conference 2021, which is Miami. And it was amazing this year. It's going to be amazing next year. I have no doubt there's going to be even more people. So down below, we have a link to buy tickets and a discount code 10%. Toxic22 is that referral link code. And since I've got the word, I just want to take a look at the live scarf pump chart and see how we're doing. And if you look, so these are 15-minute candles. If you look back on the last 3 candles, that's when we went live. So we are up. How much is that? We're up from around 61, 666, and we're up about $400. And yeah, that's how we roll on Toxic Happy Hour. And everybody knows the reason is we have some pretty heavy whales in the chat. And when they go online and are not selling Bitcoin for yachts and islands, that takes some sell pressure off the market. And here we go, off to the
we could pop through an all-time high any minute now. Easy,
especially if you take on a scarf, John Doe. It's the scarf pump.
What show was it? I think Will Clement was on with us, and I think we pumped was it 2% in just 2 hours or 3? It was some ridiculous thing. It was just a straight up green dildo, man. That's just funny. Obviously,
but the final thing about the toxicity and the conference stuff, I guess it boils down to this: it seems like you can't lie to a Bitcoiner, and this is because maybe Bitcoiners have always had or cultivated a perception that's able to see through that stuff, and maybe there's some weird alchemical stuff with Bitcoin itself changing Bitcoiners. I love to talk about that stuff, but that's why I don't care about the clout chasers and stuff. You're not fooling anybody. Everyone can see it, and so great. Let people act, and then people will judge them for their action, and everything will be as it's supposed to be. So none of it really bothers me. The thing I just appreciate and love the most is that Bitcoiners are all about truth, right? And they see through bullshit and they call it out. And what do you want more than that? It's beautiful.
Yeah,
we definitely slay our fucking heroes around here. I talk about how much I love the Mayor Multiple. Look, we killed the guy that gave us proof of keys day. That's all. That's how toxic we are. The guy that gave us proof of keys decides to show Mimble Wimble, and it's like, what the fuck? Dude? What are you thinking? Personally, I think it may have been a beautiful exit. It may have been a beautiful exit scam for him. I don't know. A nice way for him to get out. But yeah, listen, man. It's like to have fun staying poor. Okay. People take it the wrong way. They think it's like this. Why are you so mean? Why? That was never. Well, the ironic thing is Udi came up with it, but it was more because of all the haters that had just put down Bitcoin year after year after year. And you just reach that point when you say, look, man, I can't explain it to you anymore. Have fun staying poor. And that's all it was ever intended. Yeah. It gets twisted around. The toxicity, I think, is fantastic for the space. There's a difference between being toxic and being an asshole to people. I get that. There's a fine line there. But you can be toxic because when you still have someone running a website called Bitcoin.com that people are now buying Bitcoin Cash, okay, that's the kind of shit that I'm toxic about.
Totally. But, it's also like people from the outside take it all so seriously. Part of the amazing thing about all of this and all of us is we give it to each other just as hard in many cases, but none of us take it seriously. We know it's just, even if it's not even ribbing, even when there's legit spats in the space, it's why would you care? Right? You mute your phone, don't listen to the person. You got freedom money, baby. You're good. What do you got to care about some meanies on the internet saying? So when people on the outside take out these sayings have fun staying poor and analyze them in isolation, oh my God, what a arrogant, fucking hubristic, mean thing to say. It's you don't get it. All of this is almost just a test of character, more so than protecting the protocol and trying to protect noobs or whatever. It's this big amorphous blob of protocol and people is just trying to figure out who people really are. And so if you come in and you're sensitive to this tweet, this phrase that somebody said to you, and you recoil from it and you try to control the narrative and say, oh my God, how dare you, a bunch of terrorist scum, then that's the amorphous blob learning about you and seeing, using its tools to figure out who you really are. So it's almost all this is more of a test of character than anything.
Yeah. So part of my job, I help do crisis planning for embassies and consulates around the world. I got a team. A lot of these guys are prior military from different walks of life, different special forces. But you spend for a month 10 hours a day at a conference room table, and you are just taking the piss out of each other, man. And you learn real quick. If you show 1 minute, if you show for 1 second that somebody said affected you, you're done. It was over.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with
Same
Bitcoin
in a
Twitter, man.
schoolyard, same in a fucking
Yeah,
a
do not
sports locker room or whatever,
never never let them think they're getting to you. But yeah, so I think Bitcoin Twitter is a natural fit for me, man. And I love the fact the more fighting going on, the more bullish I become, because I know we're just crab walking sideways. No one's got anything to do. Dieter and American Hodl going back and forth. People just calling each other out. When it's fighting like that, I know it's a good time to stack.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say this enough. I just think it's beautiful that every action reveals character. And what I want to know about the people that I'm interacting with and potentially friends and business partners, whatever, is who people really are. Because we live in a world today where everyone's wearing a mask of some kind, and so many people are so disingenuous. And that's why, like, even if people are kind of spewing their own insecurity and their own hate, I almost respect it if they're being true to themselves. Like, even if maybe they shouldn't be so insecure and they haven't done the work on themselves, the fact that they have the courage for PC, era and world we live in today to actually just speak what they believe to be true, like I value a ton. And so the fact that we're here letting people just act how they feel like acting and then judging their character accordingly, I think is like one of the most beautiful things about at least the Twitter podcast world of Bitcoin, And it strengthens us too, right? It strengthens all of our relationships. Like, we met in Miami. We've talked before. Like, I know what you guys are about, and I feel like you guys know what I'm about. Like, the fact that as we move forward and we see more people act, and all this interaction that takes place, we strengthen our own relationships. Like, we value and respect the relationship that we're able to build over common values and common principles and common ways of behaving and common perspectives and seeing the world. And like, that's great too, because what's better than a strong, trustworthy relationship? I mean, it's so valuable.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things I love about the memes, because it's been the last year and a half. A lot of the memers, man, take that game up a notch. When you look at the big picture about it, what I love the most is the more ridiculous the meme, it's more of just pointing out how ridiculous the current system is. Okay, and even from
the meme is the mirror. The meme is the mirror, right?
From Laser Eyes on down, and now this is a lot. So on one Saturday, I was bored, so I just started a Talks to Half Hour Spaces, and Yellow jumps in, and we did 2 hours talking about nothing but banana bread. Okay, and I think, and you get all these DMs. What the fuck is banana bread? What is this all about? But that's just it. The whole point is, some of the things we're ridiculous about is because the rest of the world is ridiculous. Okay, and it's funny that people that are ridiculous have the soundest money the world will ever see. The hardest currency the world will ever see are the people that are calling out this current system for how ridiculous it is. So yeah, do we do a lot of stupid shit? Yeah, it's because we're trying to show you how stupid what you're doing really is, man.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I saw Raul tweet today that the Leota with laser eyes GIF is like the worst GIF ever or something. I was like, no, it's probably possibly the best GIF ever, But
Yes.
It mirrors, it mirrors Raul. It kind of exposes, right? And the memers, God love them, like they take it all the way. Like, you see the porn memes coming out in recent months and years, and you're like, what do you think about that? What's your reaction to that shit? And anyone outside the space would be like, think these people are absolutely out of their fucking minds, But Bitcoiners kind of just chuckle at it when they see it. I don't know. We're all bizarre as hell, but I think we're right and we're honest. We're gonna win, and I love it. So
and we're doing all of this for the love of humanity. I mean, that's I feel is like the true Bitcoiner. I know all of us here and so many other of the good people in the space are in this to help free humanity from central banking slavery. And a lot of people, they don't see that how we are enslaved because they steal the value of our labor, which is if somebody else owns your labor and profit from your labor this way, it's without asking permission, that's slavery. And
Mm-hmm.
I keep saying it's funny how they convince people that hey, we're going to dilute the value of your savings. It's in your best interest. And everyone's like, okay, they're saying it. But it's like, yeah, we're going to, keep printing more and stimulate, because then you guys get to keep your job. But let's remember, when we were on gold as money, everyone, people had a job as well. So it's totally unnecessary, this way of, central banks and governments profiting. And let's not forget that the central bank is privately owned, and you can audit it, and was created in 1913 by different rich bank families, right? But one thing I want to just share quickly also on screen is I think a graph that really knocks out of the ballpark how inevitable Bitcoin is as taking over money of the world. What did I want to say? Let's just take Bitcoin has no top because Fiat has no bottom. And let's take a look at this. And John, I'm sure you're familiar with this, but basically, this is the price of Bitcoin. One circle, it starts in the middle. One full circle is a 4-year period, because there's this 4-year halving cycle. Well, in fact, it's practically been a little bit less than 4, but roughly. And you see how, sure, it may not be a straight line. That's correct. There is volatility. But in a 4-year period, in a 4-year cycle, Bitcoin is always up minimum, actually 883%. And when you look at this price here, you see how, these different corrections and pumps, they don't matter. What matters is that Bitcoin is going further and further out. And we just need to go a little bit further out. And that will be, in my opinion, the collapse of fiat currency. John, what do you think about this graph?
I love it. I mean, it's such a different visual from the standard chart, even the log chart, because you can show people the log chart and be like, well, that doesn't look like it's, going to do anything but go up and to the right. But, the fact that those circular lines never intersect, right? And the circle is just getting bigger. I mean, it's a totally different visual. And it of course, it looks like it's inevitable, right? It looks like it's going to keep going that way. It's just, people, the big thing is like, I can talk about Bitcoin until I'm blue in the face, even to like family members and people who know the shtick. But until your mind switches from thinking like this thing is an investment by which you're trying to like grow your wealth with, and like there's still your unit of account, let's say, is still Canadian dollar, US dollar, to like Bitcoin as your unit of account, and this is much more than just an investment. And this is, access to a more peaceful, a more prosperous, a more abundant, freer world. And this is the portal in. And the more of it you have, the more you can manifest that in your life. Like that is difficult to explain or persuade someone, right? The old story where like you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Like ultimately, Bitcoin is an individual journey, and people will help you on the way, but like the penny has to drop for you. You have to kind of figure out why it's so important and valuable and all that jazz. But graphs like that certainly help assuage the fears of like, this is a flash in the pan, tulip bubble, whatever. I mean, hopefully soon we're done with those narratives, because not that they were ever really relevant, but after 12 years and after looking at performance like that, it's kind of hard to make the case.
Pubby, what do you think about this graph displaying how Bitcoin's price, as John so beautifully said, never intercept on a 4-year period? Always just heading out. It's heading out.
First off, Anders is going to compliment you to use an Americanism like hit it out of the ballpark. As a Danish guy, to make a baseball reference, pretty damn good, dude. You're really coming into the fold. Two, this is literally one of my favorite charts.
America. I live in America.
America.
It was
So
once a great nation, and will be again. back to you.
So, yeah, this chart, the first time I saw it, it took me like 10 minutes to understand what the fuck I was looking at, to be honest with you. I was sort of guy like, okay, it's going in circles. What is this with time? And when I finally got it, it's much like Bitcoin. When you finally get it, you're like blown away. And when I see this thing, guess what? It's not coming back, man. And it reminds me of Bitcoin being a black hole. The black hole just keeps expanding, dude. It keeps expanding, and the gravitational force is getting stronger and stronger every time it goes around. Yeah, I I won't say I've given up orange pilling people. I will talk about Bitcoin. I understand now Satoshi Nakamoto's frustration. If you don't have the time, fuck, I get it now, man. I'd rather be hanging out with my Bitcoin friends, doing podcasts, reading, learning, educating myself, because I can't look. I can't be smart for you. Okay, I can't make you understand it. If all these companies that can look, if they can, I just posted the 5-year chart for Bitcoin, 9,000% return, 9,000 since 2016. If you're a CFO or CEO, and you can see an asset class that is 13 years established, it's coming back with even just a conservative 200% return per annum. And you can't be bothered to even put 5% in. What else can I say, man? The numbers are right there. What the fuck else can I say? Why am I wasting my time with you? You buy number one rule. You buy Bitcoin at the price you deserve.
The price you deserve. Yeah. I almost think sometimes that the vision, like, because we're still trying to figure out what Bitcoin is, right? That's why we have all these conversations and these podcasts, because this thing is so novel and foreign and unique and unprecedented. Like, we have a sense of what it is in certain domains and capacities, but nobody has the full picture. Maybe nobody ever will. I mean, it's so weird. But I think for a lot of those people, just allowing themselves to believe that something so grand and transformational has emerged is like one of the biggest hurdles. Because a lot of these people are used to hot investment opportunities popping off and new industries emerging that are going to revolutionize things. But like, this thing is such a big change that for some, the very pragmatic, perhaps conservative, like investment minded person, like, I don't think they'll allow themselves to believe that something as disruptive as this, like, even exists. Something that's going to, like, to a large degree, dissolve the nation state itself, to say nothing of reforming the global monetary system and changing humanity's relationship to property. Like, are you going to let yourself believe that as an investment thesis? A lot of people are just too conservative to allow themselves to do that.
I just always thought that everyone would be greedy enough to try it. Not that they believe in it,
Yeah,
but how the hell can you not look at these returns over almost, we're coming up on 13 years, and you look at every 4-year cycle, roughly every halving, we'll say, and you see this, and you're still not greedy enough to try it? That's crazy to me, man.
Yeah, I know. It's almost like the 9,000% return turns people away. They're like, oh, that's a clear sign this is, tulips or bogus or whatever.
Yeah. Bitcoin's dead again.
John,
but you said it so right. I mean, you get the price you deserve. You have to accept that. It stings a little bit because you think, no, I just fucked up a bit, and that's why I didn't get in earlier. It's like, no, you got in at the very price you deserve, my friend.
Yeah, and that it can hurt a little bit, but it's such a great meme, and it's also, when people who haven't bought any Bitcoin, when they hear that, it makes them question, hey, hang on, have I given it a fair shot? Now, to one of the most important parts of Toxic Happy Hour, John, everybody knows we're going to blow through $100,000 per Bitcoin in November or December. So the $100,000 yacht party for Michael Saylor, are we still on, or?
I mean, I haven't received any contradictory notifications or anything, so I assume we are. I think maybe back in March or April, I opened a spreadsheet, just like, okay, I'm gonna put some names on this thing, and then I just forgot about it, and I haven't touched it since. So, guest list hasn't been, haven't worked on it at all yet, and hopefully I'll be speaking to Saylor in the not too distant future, so we'll be able to talk about it a little bit more and see what excitement and planning levels are at. But I think it's still on. So, see, I don't know how long after we cross the mark the party will be. That's up to sailor, party planners, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly, it could easily happen this year, right? We could easily cross that mark before the end of the year.
Well, obviously,
In fact, it almost seems likely.
yeah, I was going to say, of course, we're gonna do everything we can to finagle our way into 2 tickets. One thing
Well,
I
you,
would
you
say,
guys are already on the list.
yeah,
Come
man,
on
that's what
now.
I'm talking about. So, I,
That's why we do the
I,
show. We
yeah,
just want to get tickets to great parties, honestly.
I was talking to Ali from the real Tahinis, man. We met him obviously in Miami. We talk offline quite
Yeah.
a bit. I said, man, let me tell you, there's no better drunk food in the world than a fucking shawarma. So we need to have a tahini shawarma stand on the yacht. Okay, people have too much to drink. They go over, they get a
It's
tahini's
true.
shawarma. Just
What
throwing
did
it
he
out
say
there.
about that?
Oh, he's all for it, man. Are you kidding? Yeah, he's all
I
for it.
mean, with their Bitcoin treasury, they should be able to whip up a mobile tahini shop in no time. They're killing it. I mean, I think they converted their treasury like below 10K, so they're laughing.
Well, he did, but then he was telling me he probably doesn't want me to share this, but they lost it in a boating accident, apparently.
Ah, yes, right.
So he's
That is
yeah.
tragic. I had something similar happen myself, unfortunately, but I believe in this thing, so I'm climbing my way back very, very, very slowly. First 10,000 sats, but one day at a time.
And Michael Saylor's yacht party is a pretty obvious occasion for losing keys. People got to be careful. Don't bring your one and only paper wallet and go diving off the boat. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. So
That's great advice. That's great advice.
I was gonna say, you know what's cool, just real quick, how quick? I mean, we're talking about. It was only April. You find out a nation state like El Salvador is going in. The previous August was the first corporation. A lot of people that are coming don't even realize it's only been 3 years that we even had a Lightning network. For
It's so
God's sake,
crazy. Yeah.
because the narrative when I started was, well, Litecoin, that's the silver to Bitcoin gold, and Bitcoin can't scale. You need Bitcoin Cash. This is how quickly the narrative always changes. And you're right. What is
Yeah.
Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin? How does it affect people? Because Saylor was the one that brought up the entire narrative of this is the greatest store of value I've ever seen. Hell, you never have to sell. You buy, borrow, and die. And I thought, my God, that's it. That's the end of Bitcoin as a narrative. Until you find out, you get this young kid named Jack Mallers that comes out and says, actually, guys, Bitcoin is a network. Bitcoin is a network that's going to change the world. So you go from one side to the other, and it seems like every year there is just a new narrative about what Bitcoin means, and it does. It means so many things to so many different people.
Yeah. And, the other point about that is, let's say August, there was no Michael Saylor, there was no Bukele, there was no El Salvador. Like you said, it was a totally different set of narratives. So it's impossible to predict what's going to be happening just 1 year from now. There could be 10 more countries that have Bitcoin as legal tender in 1 year, because all those people that were working behind the scenes for the El Salvador thing, like all the big shots in the space, you just mentioned one of them. They've been back channeling the shit out of everything for the last year. Like those powerful, like hardcore Bitcoiners, I mean, they're on the phone with every power broker basically in the world, from presidents to CEOs and all that kind of stuff. And so when are the results of all those, Sailor pitches and conversations like that going to manifest in these big announcements and moves? Like a lot of them probably over the next 12 months. So I mean, it's going to be super exciting. But it's impossible to predict. I mean, this thing is it's an exponential technology, and it's going to exponentially impact and emerge on the world.
Yeah, we just saw that graph. I mean, it just keeps going out and out and out every 4 years. always up with a minimum, pretty much an order of a magnitude, which is 10x. But what I find interesting is that as far as I know, and I'm surprised that not more publicly listed companies, the ones that are registered on a stock exchange, not more, as far as I know, than MicroStrategy has converted all their dirty fiat into to Bitcoin. It's been more than a year now, and it's such an obvious, brilliant move. I know that some Tesla dabbled in and converted 10% of their treasury. I'm talking full 100% Bitcoin standard. I'm surprised after more than a year, and just imagine what's going to happen to price when we go. I think it's like either 6,000 or 60,000 publicly traded companies in the world. We're so early. There's still only one that's gone full Bitcoin bonanza. It's hard to believe.
It's so crazy, and like they're not going to let Saylor have all the fun for long. Like a lot of other intelligent people are going to be like, wait, we can borrow at like 1% for 5-10 years and put it in something that's growing 150+% CAGR. You mean that's something that we can actually do, and we protect ourselves from inflation? And Saylor in 1 year just doubled his $3 billion investment to $6 billion. Like, why aren't we doing that? And as you say, that like MicroStrategy ultimately is one tiny company, amidst tens of thousands of companies, many of which are much bigger. So when the word catches on, and Saylor's going to do, Saylor's going to buy as much goddamn Bitcoin as he possibly can, so someone else is going to have to come in and stop him from doing that. But once more and more companies are kind of speculatively attacking the dollar like that, then how fast do things accelerate even more? That's another major accelerant. That
exactly.
Like now 1,000 companies are borrowing at 1% interest, 2% interest. Even if interest rates go to 10%, still worthwhile to borrow at 10% and put it into Bitcoin. If you can service it, which many of them can with cash flows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Imagine a drop off. Oh, I'm sorry. Instead of 200% per annum, we sucked this year. We're only going to make you 25% a year. 25%. That's it. Man, people would be tripping all over themselves. And I'm laughing because I was doing the spaces the other day, and I was trying to explain because and it's cool, man, especially when there's new people asking questions. When when you're trying to explain to them how scarce is it really? You talk about the main value proposition being digital scarcity. To me, is the unconfiscatable side as well, maybe even more. But to get back to digital scarcity, I was trying to explain to them, during the next halving, the reward gets dropped to 3.125 per block. And I said, I'm going to make it easy for you. That means in 2024, well, from the halving that following year, there's only going to be 164,250 Bitcoin produced. And to put that in perspective for you, MicroStrategy bought 114,000 this year. So that at the next halving, you just need one company the size of MicroStrategy, and all the new supply is gone by 1.5 companies. And guess what? After that, they got to beg, borrow, and steal from you and me. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that 50%, that sphincter tightens, man. That bitch tightens, and there's more people coming in. So those are the companies. Now imagine when Apple, all the FANG companies come in, and they're trying to.
Where's Apple? Why are they not stacking? They have $200 billion cash that is rotting away while the Fed is printing so much money.
That's why I love Parker Lewis's gradually then suddenly, because I literally know one day we're going to go to bed, and there's going to be like a 20x overnight, some bullshit like this. There's going to be it's going to be a coordinated attack, man, a coordinated buy. But Jesus, think about that. Only 164,000 produced.
It's crazy.
In a year.
I wonder how many of the bigger companies, like some of their sluggishness, because one aspect is like, as obvious as this is to all of us hardcore Bitcoiners, it's still like a massive secret to most of the world, which is what makes all this so fun, right? This is why we have so much fun mixing it up on Twitter and podcasts, was because we're kind of like, holy shit, people don't see it yet. Like they don't actually, we're a relatively small group of people that see it. But so that'll slowly change, right, as it becomes more obvious. But I think for some of the biggest companies, like they have political considerations. Like, could Apple just borrow 50, or take its cash and say like, and announce they're going into Bitcoin? I don't know. Like they're so big that maybe they have political considerations that they don't want to, make angry or whatever. And so that's either the reason they're not public about it or why they may not pull the trigger on something like that. But for smaller companies that have, fewer political considerations, yeah, the floodgates will just burst wide open.
Yeah, and absolutely. I was just thinking about that as well, that political consideration, because the powers that be don't really necessarily like that. That power is taken away from them because, as Scarface said, first you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the women.
Then you get
money is where power is derived from. And when people wonder, like, oh, I came late to the party, I'm looking at shit coins because Bitcoin is already at 62,000 or whatever. But only one out of these thousands of thousands publicly listed companies converted at 100% to a Bitcoin standard. And only one country, one small country, GDP-wise, fairly insignificant to the entire world. So I think this is an interesting time. We have that one listed company and one country. That's where we're at right now. And based on MicroStrategy, that's not their, it's not because of them, but we went up 6x, 500%. From MicroStrategy bought first around 10,000 to now above 60,000. A couple of companies, and then it could really trigger, and that X curve just starts going boom. And before you know it, the dollar and other dirty fiat currencies collapse. And
let me ask you guys this.
Sure.
How do you respond? So Bitcoin, let's say by 2025, Bitcoin's $1 million plus, between 1 and 5 million per coin. How do you guys change? How does your life change? How do your aspirations, your everything change? Like, have you given any thought to, like, when, let's for easy numbers, Bitcoin's at $2 million a coin?
That's an easy number. I like that number. I'll tell you. Let's work on that, Puppy. Let's work with 2 million per coin. Yeah. What's your answer?
It's been nice knowing you, bitches. Been nice knowing you. No, you know what I'm gonna do, dude? I'm gonna, like I say, I'll have a fucking Guinness keg in my bedroom, and I'll be running Spaces, Chess, and Podcast for 24/7. And I'll pass out sometimes, and then I'll wake up and I'll start talking about Bitcoin again.
But Puppy, this is no different than from today. No, but maybe that's your point.
Yeah, but you know what's funny, man? No, this is why it is such the truth to me, man. It's such a passion. It's because I do it for free already. You think just because I have money, you think I'm going to stop? It's even better. I'll have a better headset than this piece of shit. All right, I may have a better computer or setup. I'm going to fix my broken closet behind me. All right. Hell, I may knock down the whole goddamn house and build a new one with a better closet. I don't know. What I'm saying is, it doesn't change. It doesn't change who I am. It's helped shaping me into who I'm becoming. But man, everything we were talking about earlier about untapped growth. So, for example, I think in your podcast, John, he was talking about just getting trailer parts. Trailer parts was difficult with supply chain shit. Damn, if I have extra money, maybe hey, what do you need to open up a trailer company that makes just trailers for people? Okay, it's things like that.
Yeah.
Man, when you become sort of either a Patreon or someone that can contribute more, that's it. It's not gonna change. Look, man, I know who I am in life. You guys know who I am as far as joking around and 3 or 4 years here on Twitter and believe in it. But when I hit a point where I have more time to put into this, yeah, I'll be a full-time Bitcoiner.
Yeah, and I think also to answer your question, John, So there's a friend of mine, one of my best friends, just like Puppy is, that kept saying like, Anders, you're always so, it seems you're so, focused on money. And we've kind of been talking past each other for all these years, because he thought that for me, the money was about, buying fancy cars and material goods. And I just realized how we're talking past each other this summer. And I said, no, for me, it's about financial freedom. Financial independence is freedom, which means I won't be, enslaved to anyone telling me what to do in a company full of, political stuff and basically having masters one way or another. To me, it's about buying my own freedom with that money and being able to do what I do. But I think just like you two, I'm the same person and will be the same person. I'll just have freedom in my life. And then, of course, I look forward to flying Puppy Jet when he gets that at $2 million Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think, I agree with all that. And I think it just adds fuel to the fire, right? You have more capacity and means to put energy and money behind the things of greatest value, the things that you want to see in the world, right? If you see someone like Joel building this amazing thing, maybe you become an investor, maybe you support in some other way. Like, it's just all these things that we talk about and that we're exploring now, all these changes that because when you give an individual who's coming out of such a unfree world, and in many cases that those constraints are invisible, right, in this fiat culture that we have. And once you pluck people out of that, like you pluck them out of the matrix, and you give them freedom, yes, there's an element of anxiety and shock, because now you're more responsible, and it's you have to figure things out. You don't just take the garbage culture and say, I'm going to become another agent of the culture, right? You have to figure out what it means to become your own person and construct your perspective intentionally and by yourself. But as that process unfolds, you get to see like who you can become when you're a free person, right? When you have a solid, secure foundation that preserves your freedom, the more that grows, the more you're able to express who you really are out in the world. And that's what's so exciting to me about all this, and that we're all communicating and connecting, and that we're all converging on certain values and principles and things that we want to exist, and we're going to put our energy into making them happen, and that's how we get this better world that we always envision.
Yeah, but John, I'm also curious, what's your answer to what you're going to do at $2 million Bitcoin, which we all consider inevitable? Like this current price, as Greg Foss says, Gap Daddy Foss, it's just a rounding error. So what are you going to do at the $2 million per Bitcoin?
Well, I hate to steal your answers, but it's basically that, right? Like I'll have let's say maybe a bit more of an autonomous, independent, sovereign setup somewhere, because right now we're in a bit of a transition period where I think being adaptable is the name of the game, at least for most citizens, if you're not like locked in red state US or something. But, ultimately I'd like to have a solid sovereign foundation where, again, I've established my own freedom. And then I just want to engage with the people and ideas that are building, things that foster greater freedom, greater joy, greater health, greater relationships, greater connection with each other, with the world. Like, I don't know. I'm excited because I know that, like, this, more than anything, this process is a process of our own individual evolution and us being set free as a result of this thing that is Bitcoin. And so I don't know the person I'm going to be in 4 years. Like, I think I'll maintain some of the foundational elements of my personality, but I'm hoping that I'm going to grow a lot in that time period, and I'll change and transform. And, but it's certainly not like Lambos and private jets. I'm sure a Bitcoin will run a private jet company and we'll all be flying pleb air, wherever we want to go. And that'll be great. But it's all about exploring, having freedom, and using that to instantiate the things that are the most valuable to you in the world, seeing them, plant them, seeing them bloom, cultivating them, becoming them, growing, your connections with other people. I mean, that's what brings me the most joy anyways, right? So it's just about doing more of that, taking care of my body, my family, connecting with good people, and building things that we want to see in the world. So kind of like you guys said, like what we're doing now, just more of it.
Absolutely. Family, friends, health, helping other people. And I think that once the world goes on a Bitcoin standard and we have sound money, it's just going to be such a much better place. And I think it'll bring out the best in people, to be honest, because right now it's like, when there isn't much food in the food bowl for, some animals, they end up infighting, but there will be plenty. It'll be a world of plenty. I want to just real quickly, because shorter term, medium term price, I think most people know Plan B for his stock to flow model and his S2FX cross asset, no time involved in it. But he's been going a little bit under the radar for something that's turned out some work that's turned out to be mind-blowingly predictive. June this year, he started doing, or he probably started before that, but he started doing on-chain analysis, just like Willy Woo and Will Clement and Transaction MC, as I call him. He made some predictions based on what he could see on chain. And this was back in June. He predicted, what would be the minimum price in July. No, sorry, was it August and September, etc. I think we had two so far. Let me just bring the tweet up. If people can see here, he started with August. So this tweet is from back in, where can I see it again? This is back the 20th of June, where he predicts that in August, Bitcoin would be at minimum 47,000. He absolutely nailed it. It was just like less than $200 above. And then it was, what I think is amazing is he didn't just like pull out something, exponential growth. He said, but in September, and he said this back in June, the close should be minimum 43. Again, he nailed it. We actually were down in September, but his model of minimum, or his prediction of minimum 43 held through. And I think that's pretty mind-blowing. And then he's saying for October, which we have another 13 days for, I think, he's saying minimum 63,000. We're almost there. And then in November, he says minimum $98,000 per Bitcoin, December minimum 135. Guys, both of you, what are your thoughts on Plan B's on-chain analysis?
Pubby?
I'll go first, man. Listen, man, the one thing I always loved about Plan B, and not enough people give him credit for this. He came out with this model, and Bitcoin was like under $6,000. It's like 5,000, whatever. That guy comes out with a model at a point. He didn't bring it out at the top when everyone was like riding high. He brought out the model when we were sucking. We were sucking pretty hard. But I'll tell you what, man, it hasn't broken down. How does a model work when you try to factor in a pandemic, all this printing? That I don't know. I don't know how all of that works. I will tell you this: the model is still valid. I love Michael Saylor's. All your models are destroyed. The one model that's not destroyed is Plan B's right now, man.
And what
Corey,
about the on-chain?
What
about these?
The on-chain. Fuck. The on-chain stuff. Again, to me, it's the on-chain analysis. Again, it's a tool, another tool in the toolkit to look back and figure it out. But check this out. No one would have ever thought that we're coming to the end of the year in 2021, and we always assume the Bitcoin price was going to be, or the price action would be end of 2017 and end of 2013. What's interesting is this is a new paradigm for us. Okay, this to me, man, we got another 6 months of bull run in front of us. I think we still go. I think we hit 100K by the end of the year. We don't hit the new all-time highs, the real ones, until May or June. That's what we're looking at. I don't know what his model has for that so much, but damn, for the last 2 years or 3 years, was it 2018 he came out with that? Here we are, and he's still hitting it, man. When you're nailing shit in September of 2021 after this pandemic, at least give the guy some credit.
Yeah,
John.
I gotta say, I've never looked into like the details of the model, right? I've just looked at what it says. And you know, I don't care about any of the models, the on-chain, the analysis. Like I think like the work, I think just like like Dylan and Will and those guys are so sharp. They're like 20 years old. It's amazing that they're so sharp. You know, I'm impressed by that. But none of the modeling I give a fuck about, right? Because like I'm all in, so it's not gonna. I guess there's no relevance to it for my behavior because it's not gonna. What it says is not gonna change my behavior, and that kind of causes me to not really care that much about it. But it's another one of those kind of fun things that's part of the lore and the appeal of the space that floats around. And you got to hand it to him, like that tweet that he made in June, like you were just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, he almost got caught in September there, but you know, we ended up coming out of September at like just above 43, right? And so interesting. We shall see if it holds up. And you know, if Christmas were at 119 or 120 or whatever it says there, then great, you know. And so I like not to detract anything from him. Like, and I know Corey's often banging on against it, but like I don't have the capacity to judge the statistical modeling component of it or anything. But it's interesting. It's another one of those peculiar things about the space. Ultimately irrelevant, but you know, everyone likes a nice chart with a bunch of different colored dots on it that are going in the right direction, right? What's there not to like about that?
I totally. I think probably one of my favorite model, or really my favorite model, is really not a model, but that graph we looked at earlier, where the price is going out, and it's like just always like minimum an order of a magnitude on that 4-year cycle is. That just nails it home. If you can do that almost 13 years in a row, come on, it's pretty obvious where we're going. We're going into Bitcoin taking over. There's just no two ways about it.
Yeah.
John, do you have any
It's like all
experience
these
with
graphs are just different ways to show how Bitcoin is inevitable. And when one pops up that like is really good at that, like that circular one, you're like, ooh, you know, I can send this one. That one's great.
Yeah.
So it's all good.
Oh, oh yeah. I shamed Yellow to
What were
come
you
back
saying?
into the conversation. I was going to say I shamed Yellow into coming back into the conversation because, of course, yeah, I never disrespect our guests, but when you see Bitcoin Magazine hosting the spaces, and I see Yellow in there sharing his banana bread, I say, "Where the fuck are you, man? Where the fuck are you? You get back into our space." He came back now. Now he wants to see me without
What
a
an
shirt
honor!
on.
What an honor to have him in attendance.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yellow's great, man. We love Yellow.
We do. John, do you have any experience with Lightning Network? President Pish tweeted out a couple of days ago his Lightning Network a node where so people could connect with him, open channels, and he had quite a bit of Bitcoin in there on his Lightning Network node. Do you have any experience with that? And of course, I think the main motivation for people to do that is not only are you helping, like doing some necessary work for Lightning Network to scale so we can do global medium of exchange, so that Bitcoin not only is the best store of value, but also we can actually use it to pay for what are they called, papusas in El Salvador and the rest of the world. But at the same time, you're getting a return because if you get these tiny Satoshi fees for routing Lightning Network transactions, you actually get a self-custodial return on your Bitcoin, which is the first time ever we've seen that on an asset. Do you have any experience with Lightning Network?
Yeah, I mean, I run a Lightning node and I have channels, and I saw what Preston was putting out recently, like a new, maybe a special type of opening channels. I haven't looked into it yet. So, you know, I don't, and you have to, a normal node with a few channels and stuff, you're not going to make much routing, right? It's very interesting for people that are trying to become like a big routing node, because then your yield effectively, pretty compelling. You have to have a lot of capacity. But I think in the future, I mean, this will be part of generating a cost of capital in the Lightning Network, and a very efficient, immediate cost of capital, just looking at, how much liquidity has to be put up for how much yield. I mean, that's super interesting. But I just use it as a pleb, for my minimal Lightning uses, so I have a few channels open to do the podcast streaming payments and that kind of stuff, but I haven't gotten too sophisticated with it yet. I know there's kind of a group of plebs. It's actually, I think they have a Telegram news, is it PlebNet or something like that, where many of them are they're anticipating, let's say, the gains from routing like 10 years out, and they're all opening channels with one another and trying to become sort of small routing nodes. And that's super interesting because, if we're all right about how this grows, then establishing those channels early on and becoming a routing node, it may actually be material in the future. And I was speaking with Tomer a couple days ago, and he was referring to like Lightning of like sovereign trade routes, right? Like in this hyper Bitcoinized future where you get to decide like who you want to open trade relationships with. And then obviously you benefit from the people that they have relationships with, et cetera, et cetera. But if there's ever a dispute or whatever, then you just say, okay, I no longer want to support your economic activity, nor you mine, perhaps. We close it off, it's amicable. Everyone is taken care of, clean. And it's a kind of an interesting way to or analog or to picture what channels are. It's like maybe we really like each other and we want to contribute to a similar economy, and we have a lot of similar trading partners, and we say, let's open a channel together, to contribute to, let's say, the network that we are fostering through our trade relations and our buying habits and stuff like that. So I thought that was an interesting way of looking at it, but I don't get fancy with it up till now. I just have enough capacity for my uses, and if that grows in the future, then I'll expand the capacity, and that's basically it.
You're saying, you're touching upon something there that just made me think a little bit. Although that sounds funny, but you're talking about this return. It's going to establish a base of return, so we can probably guess that future free market interest rates in terms of what can companies and people borrow at, the interest rate of what interest rate can people achieve on loans when the alternative base layer is, let's say, on providing self-custodial Satoshis and Bitcoin into the Lightning Network gives you an 8% annual return. Why would you lend it out anything less than that? So that's why I think it's an extremely interesting, return percentage for the Lightning Network, because it'll probably set that base layer of a free market interest rate, which of course is going to put to shame this ridiculously artificial 0% interest rate, even negative in some countries. It's just mind-blowingly, communist or centralized and so far from free market. And remember that all assets more or less are priced based on this ridiculously low interest rate. So when the interest rate goes to free market, which it will when Bitcoin takes over as the money of the world, which probably is going to be this decade, then those assets they're going to be repriced, and they're going to be repriced a lot lower. On the flip side, the positive is the mortgages or loans you have in dirty fiat currency, in my opinion, basically will go to zero. So yeah, that's just my thoughts. Pubby, what do you think on that?
Dude, I don't even know what the fuck you said, man. I have no clue. No, look at now, man. No, man. Fuck. Yeah, people are sending me all these links. Yeah, check out the price. I'm laughing because I'm getting links from people. Damn, we're over $60,000, because at the end of the day, the heart of Bitcoin for many is number go up technology.
Uh-huh.
And man, when I think about the new people coming in that talk on these shows and ask questions, and it's how do you express to them? How do you express to them? Get ready for the journey of your lifetime, because everything is going to change. And one of the things I love about John Vallis's podcast is how's it changed you? How's it changing your life? He always talks to the people. How has it changed you? And at the time, it was hard for me to. It changed me in such a way of I realized how fraudulent our system was. I realized I you know I've read Creatures from Jekyll Island, Ayn Rand, Fountainhead, Atlas Shrugged. The guy, I had read all that. Bitcoin Bitcoin closed the entire argument for me. Okay, and that's how it changed my life. It closed that entire argument. I finally understood it, and we finally had an answer. Because yeah, I'd be scared shitless if there was no Bitcoin. There would be no hope right now in the world. So when people come in and say, um, "So what can I expect with Bitcoin?" I say, "Get away from that number go up technology. I know that's what you're here for, but it's going to change you in a different way that you don't know yet."
Absolutely.
100%.
I, I I want people to know that on Toxic Happy Hour we bring truth, of course, and also when it's not even convenient. And we got to check in on the scarf pump. John, it's probably due to you not wearing a scarf, but as someone in the chat said early on, you shouldn't have more pressure applied to your neck. But let's take a look at the.
What are we at?
Let's take a
What
look
the
at the
fuck?
scarf pot. Yes, we've dropped significantly. I think again, Yellow left
Yes.
the
Yep.
chat early on so he could go sell out of some of
Yellow.
these fat whale positions. This is Yellow causing the drop. He's buying islands now.
Yellow went on Bitcoin Magazine's basis. I saw him there. I caught him. Yellow. God damn it! I saw you, Yellow, as you would say. You were there selling your banana bread, and you crashed the Bitcoin price.
Yeah,
Son
John.
of a bitch.
Amen.
He says Yellow has either a joke or a question sent to one of you guys. I just saw that.
Yeah, Yellow
To
Puppy
your Twitter?
Yellow said,
Oh,
and see that's the open source of Toxic Happy Hour. Like there's a Telegram group as well that we didn't even start, but it's Toxic Happy Hour. It's not a lot of action in there, and today there's no longer a link to join that group, but it's still there. That's the open sourceness of Toxic Happy Hour Puppy. So there is a question to John from Yellow, because this is a full participation show. Yeah, it's in your DMs. You got to check your DMs. John, while we still have you, because I want to get this on the video so we can go back and re-see it and find out how we can aim to buy our freedom with podcasting 2.0. How do people start doing podcasting 2.0 and we can have more Bitcoiners that participate in spreading the word, achieving their freedom so they can do more of it? How do you start with podcasting 2.0 and this whole streaming SaaS thing?
Well, if you're a podcaster, I'm going to blank on the exact URL right now, but I think one's value for value, like value, the number 4 value, or if you just Google either podcastindex.org, Adam Curry value for value, you'll be taken to the appropriate sites. And there you can be walked through the steps of basically putting your pub key in your RSS feed, getting yourself in the podcast index so that when people are using a podcasting 2.0 app, your app shows up there and it's able to receive Lightning payments. If you're just a listener, go to Breeze. I find Breeze the easiest one. Sphinx is doing it too. But download Breeze. It's an amazing app for interacting with the Lightning Network. You go to the podcast tab, you search the show, right? So you search for Toxic Happy Hour, and if you guys have set up your feed properly, then people will be able to listen and stream sats, and they can determine how many sats they stream per minute, and they can do what's called boosts. So you could set a boost at 500, 1,000, 5,000 sats if you're a big baller, and you press boost, and like a little confetti thing bursts out while you're listening to the podcast, and the podcaster gets 5,000 sats streamed directly to their Lightning address. So it's pretty cool. I think there's a lot of potential there.
Absolutely, it's a brave new world, and Lightning Network and micropayments and streaming payments is opening up so many possibilities. Pubby, did you check your DM from Yellow? Of course, it highly likely is something you shouldn't even mention. But if you check it, let's see what it is. But while
you want to hear it?
Yeah, let's see what Yellow is saying.
From Yellow. So let's see. Oh, I have a question for Vallis. A question I keep wondering for a while in my head. Even made a recorded space out of it. So, here we go. Did Cypher have a point? Parentheses, the traitor from the Matrix. Normie Bliss and the sacrifice of the hodl. Because we are in that transition. And hyper-Bitcoinization. It isn't here yet. We still live in that fiat world where everyone consumes whatever they want, experience whatever they want. We, as hodling BTC, don't do that. That brings battle scars, especially when we stack and hodl instead of doing something a normie would do. In some aspect, we have our lives on hodl for a better future for us or our children. Mentality. Has he experienced that? And if yes, how does he deal with it?
Wow.
Absolutely, Cypher has a point, but in my opinion, he's rejected the hero's journey, which is basically rejecting life. And so he's gone back to sleep, to ignorance, to bliss. And even when I was a kid, because I was critical of many of the things we often talk about, like the banking system and politics, when I was a young teenager, it became a kind of a mantra that I said to myself, and it was always, I'd rather be tormented by the truth than coddled by ignorance. And that's kind of the thing with Cypher and being unplugged from the Matrix, right? Is the truth so important to you that you'd rather contend with it and transform into the person that's able to, derive good from it, let's say, or would you rather avoid it because the judgment of the truth is so harsh and that it can awaken the insecurities in you and make you feel bad about yourself, for example, or make you feel anxious or make you feel fearful? And that's kind of what Yellow was just getting at, right? This is what I explore on the podcast all the time. It's the most exciting and interesting thing to me because, like we've been saying, the economic case is ironclad. The monetary history case, the investment case, is all effectively boring at this point. Like we're all here talking about how inevitable it is. So we get it. What's really interesting is the individual phenomenon that's happening. That's for this cultural phenomenon that's happening, which we primarily observe and engage with on Bitcoin Twitter. But it's all happening as a result of somehow this digital protocol that lives on the internet, affecting how we see ourselves and what motivates us and what we aspire to in our lives. We touched on this already today. Like we desire to become more free and to see who we become when we have greater freedom and security and what we pursue in life and the relationships and the joy and the goodness and the principles. Like all of this is bubbling up from each of our own individual transformations. And those transformations occur because we didn't reject the hero's journey. We said we're going to face the uncertainty. We're going to stand by what we believe is right and true in our principles in the face of this monolith of the fiat world and the massive state. And we're going to say, we're going to reject that because we know it's wrong. And we're going to stand on the side of what we think is right. And now we have Excalibur on our side, right? We have a tool that we can actually fight the monster with and that we can beat it with. And as a result of shouldering that burden and dealing with the anxiety of being in transition and all the uncertainty and all the fates that may befall us, we're willing to say yes to it because what stands on the other side of adhering to your principles and trying to push them out into the world is worth it. That's what we're inherently saying. And if we need to transform who we are and to become something else to emerge as our hero selves as a result of that. In order to bring that about, it seems like we're all saying, yeah, we're ready to do that. It may be uncomfortable, it may be fun, it may be good, it may be bad, but it's worthwhile, and that's why we do it.
I think the answer was as mind-blowing as the question, Puppy. What do you think? We have a follow-up question from Yellow here, which I think also was part of that discussion he had in the spaces. Can you read it, John?
Is it the one on the screen? Do you think
Yeah,
when we
yeah.
reach hyper-Bitcoinization, or we have some degree of it, it's going to become easier? Because hodling is hard, dude, especially if you do it for many years.
Like, when do you allow yourself? Yeah, go ahead.
I think it will become easier because, you know, once the monolith of the state, right, once that transition, once that battle is kind of fought and won, presumably you know, there won't be as big of a battle on the horizon, but there will always be reasons to call your higher self to being, let's say. Like, I don't think those will ever go away. Maybe the amount of courage you have to bring to bear in order to do so changes, and maybe it gets dialed down after the transition, but you're always going to be wanting to hold yourself to a standard that pulls forth the best version of yourself, and that there's always a tension there. There's always a type of anxiety and a type of fear that's inherent in that process, because you know, we kind of forever reach beyond our grasp, and we're always going to think that there's something worthwhile that requires our full effort, whether that's raising a family, building a business, exploring the galaxy, whatever it may be. So I do think it will get easier, to answer Yellow's question, but we will always have cause to try to bring forth the best version of ourselves, and that will always require a courage and a determination.
But do you think that because I know a lot of us are really living Spartan now and spending as little as possible because we don't want to part, or we want to buy more of an asset we believe is going to do a 1000x in purchasing power value. You know, once that is achieved, I mean, do you think we'll you know, start allowing? I mean, for me, the main point really is getting that freedom and securing my you know, my family for generations. That's the goal. But you know, let's say you get a return on the Lightning Network, wouldn't you allow yourself to, you know, have, you know, some of that income to sweeten your life somewhat?
Sure.
You know, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, why not? I mean, when hyper-Bitcoinization happens, let's say that the annual increase in the value of Bitcoin roughly reflects the growth in global productivity. And let's say in a hyper-Bitcoinized world, the world is quite productive. So it's like 5, 6, 7% annual appreciation. And as you were saying earlier, Danish, like, that means that if the cost of capital is going to be at least that, because that might be a base rate of the appreciation of your capital. But you know, it's all relative, and like, every time Bitcoin goes up, even $1,000, even today, it has an effect on your time preference if you choose to investigate it. Right now, we may say there's such a discrepancy in the time preference, and there's such a great opportunity cost in spending Bitcoin, that we don't really care the increments by which it changes at 1,000. But at 10,000, at 100,000, at 1,000,000, like, it will change, and you might say, okay, well, the opportunity cost of spending Bitcoin is 15%, but I really value the farm with the cattle and the independent energy source and mining some Bitcoin off it, so I'm going to make that trade. I mean, every action we take is a reflection of our values, and every action is inherently a sacrifice because there's an opportunity cost to everything that we do. And so, you know, like, I'm sure at some point I'll spend Bitcoin. You know, I'm just going to be aware of the opportunity cost. And if I spend Bitcoin tomorrow, it's because I value more the thing that I get for it than holding it, which at the current stage is very, very little. But you know, in the future, I assume more things will emerge.
Yeah, it's just so cheap now, Bitcoin, that most of us have more Bitcoin instead of getting material luxuries. I think.
Sure. Well, this is the interesting thing that I've been trying to write lately, and it's like, there's a lot wrapped up in this, right? Because we all see in Bitcoin there's things that we're consciously value about it, and then we know that there's like a universe of things that we're not consciously valuing about it, but we suspect we will in the future, right? As Bitcoin, as we understand Bitcoin to be even more than we understand it to be today. But the punchline is that part of the result of it having such an extreme opportunity cost is that the contrast that it creates against everything is so intense. So, you know, the meme is like, sell your chairs to buy more Bitcoin. So everything in your life, it's like, do I want more sats or do I want this thing, right? And so I feel like what the effect of that is it pushes down a lot of the frivolous, perhaps unnecessary things in our life, and they do not get chosen, but it pushes up the things that can stand up to that contrast, right? So things like love, health, beauty, joy, freedom, family, those things can't be priced, and so they can stand up to the judgment, and so they may be worth our time rather than going to work at McDonald's to stack more sats, right? And so what ends up happening is that in the minds and lives of Bitcoiners, the things of transcendent value end up constellating the majority of our value system, and all that other frivolous shit gets pushed away. And so what we end up having is a bunch of sats and a bunch of those, you know, things of transcendent value in our lives, like I just articulated. And that does seem to be the case. I mean, you observe Bitcoiners and you talk to Bitcoiners, it's like, yeah, all that plastic crap, I don't need that shit. I'm either going to stack sats or I'm going to try to be healthier, freer, engage in beauty, enjoy family relationships more. And that seems almost indisputable right now, and amazing sort of phenomenon that's happening as a result of having this thing so highly valued in Bitcoin that it acts as a really effective judge of value for which we can construct our value hierarchies and our decisions to use to make decisions.
Right. As Yellow says, that's interesting, Vallis. Couldn't agree more. One thing I want to also ask you about or hear your comment on is I spoke earlier about we were doing great when we were on a sound money standard. When I say we, I mean the world, when it wasn't being diluted, but it was gold. People had jobs, so the whole fallacy or lie about, hey, we need to steal the value of your savings is a joke, and unfortunately, people drank the Kool-Aid. But I'll say this also, so that despite the growth in technology now, in US and around the world, China, all over the world, the highest productivity growth in American history was from 1883 to 1892, that 20-year period. Productivity went up by almost a factor 3 in United States. And we were on sound money back then. And that's my point. We get the proper allocation of capital when it's not distorted by a communist central bank, in my opinion. And so one thing, the thing is, that was sound money being the inflation of the gold supply was controlled by the value of money, the value of gold. So when the value of gold went up, more production was profitable. So it created that steady stream of, I believe, around 2%, new supply of gold every year. But imagine this is the first time ever that we have a money that can't react to when it becomes more valuable. We just produce more, so the flow is steady. We're going to have zero flow in the future of new Bitcoin, and I think, to me, and that's what I want to hear your comment on is, I think personally that in the future, when Bitcoin is the money of the world, and Bitcoin continues to grow in value, unlike gold that was flat because you could just produce more when it became worth more. When we have, for the first time ever, a money that will just inherently increase in value because there is productivity growth in society. We produce more, but with the same money supply, it just becomes worth more and more. then I could imagine that people to an even bigger extent than gold will just start to hoard it, because if you have Bitcoin and it goes up in value, there's a return just on holding the money, even without seeking a return. People might want to hoard it so much that there will be even less usage and spending, so little will be in circulation. So my current sort of target of $30 million per Bitcoin would snap up all store value in the world today that is put in, well, currency, which isn't really storing value, but that and real estate store value, stocks store value. That 30 million probably is bearish in terms of purchasing power, but could go to several $100 million per Bitcoin in purchasing power, because people don't want to part with it. So, you'll offer goods and services even cheaper on a SATS level, because you just, it won't be circulating much, and you need that. I don't know what's
John's asking. John's asking right now? Is there a fucking question in here? Is there a question here?
Well, I think I get it, Danish. But what I'd say is this: is that you won't get the, let's say, 8% appreciation in annual, like post hyper Bitcoinization in Bitcoin, absent the productivity growth of 8%, right? Because as you said, Bitcoin, the money will have to, right? And so having that productivity growth necessitates that economic activity is actually happening, right? It's not being stifled by the hoarding, right? So you will, it'll find that equilibrium of the productivity and the products and services and the economic activity that people desire, and the cost of capital, and it'll find an equilibrium. And what I think it will happen is, first of all, I agree that store of value premium will be subsumed by Bitcoin largely, right? Why the fuck is there going to be a store of value premium on real estate to the extent there is? I mean, it's a depreciating asset that it shouldn't be what it is, but it is because of the fucked up money. So it'll suck away a lot of the store of value or monetary premium on a lot of different assets in the world today. But I don't think hoarding will be an issue in terms of stifling economic activity, because the natural equilibrium will be found. But I do think that because of the type of money that it is, you're going to see, and a lot of things go into that period in America being the most productive, right? Both on how long after it's been founded, post-war, lots of dynamics, but let's generally say one of them certainly is sound money. And I think that when the world completely unsilos all their economic activity, so now the world is connected on one monetary network, there's no inhibitions, there's no time delays, there's no censorship of any kind. People expressing their preferences to broadcasting them everywhere in the world, and whoever can best fulfill the need and the demand, they get the business. And I think that will generate a tremendous amount of prosperity. And that's what we're all here for, right? Because we all imagine that day.
Absolutely. But I just want to make clear, I'm not saying that productivity growth will be hampered because Bitcoin goes up in value. On the contrary, sound money that cannot be artificially manipulated by a committee of, what are they, 5-7 people, central bankers, for instance, in the United States and the Fed. Productivity growth, I have no doubt, will, just like back when we were on gold, go through the roof, and maybe it'll even go more up because it's more hard money. But no doubt, I mean, in my mind, that it'll definitely increase from where it is now, the productivity growth. My point was in terms of that the value will be even higher, that, a projection of this $30 million per Bitcoin, for instance, because people don't want to part with it.
Yeah, I mean, like we've been saying, that opportunity cost calculation will change the more Bitcoin becomes adopted, and the more the price stabilizes, and the more the upside diminishes, right? So, that'll just, again, it will place an emphasis on people acting out their time preferences, and we will end up, because as you keep saying, right now, the fact that we have basically zero, this artificially manipulated interest rate at zero is just the height of insanity. Because basically what the interest rate is supposed to say, what are the preferences of people in the world, right? What are the time preferences of the people that have capital? Where is the equilibrium found, and how does that dictate production, right? And so maybe in a Bitcoin standard, the interest rate will be 8%, 10%, whatever. But the point is that it will reflect the equilibrium between the capital that people are making available for production to increase, their returns, and the demand and risk appetite and time preference of everyone vying for that capital, inclusive of producers and their prospective customers, right? So the punchline is the beauty of all this is that Bitcoin lets natural
Selection.
expression of value emerge and find its own equilibrium, as it should. And that's what actually creates abundance, is this lack of friction and this lack of intervention and manipulation, right? And what gets produced will be produced because people value it, because people are saying, I'm willing to pay that price for that thing to be produced. And this is the fucked up thing about fiat culture, and this is why we rail on it so much, is like the culture that we experience in the world today is not one of our own choices in making, by and large, or at least to a certain degree, because the cost of capital being manipulated as it is means that a lot of things get made and a lot of things survive and a lot of things die that shouldn't. That's not what the actions of people in the market are signaling should happen. It's what the actions of a very select few are allowing to happen, and oftentimes they're basically imposing their ideologies on the market and using these levers of manipulation through interest rate and money printing to give them the power to make it happen. And so, again, I'm super excited for the world that emerges as a result of simply the actions of people determining what world we get, the actions of everybody, rather, determining the world we get and the culture we get, rather than the actions of very few attempting to impose the culture that they want or the ideologies they have on everybody else through their manipulation of these very powerful levers of culture and finance and monetary systems and the like.
Yeah, it's I agree. It's going to drive prosperity and abundance, just like Jeff Booth says in his book Price of Tomorrow, which is a great read.
Yeah, totally.
So, Pubby, anything you want to interject, or should we give John an opportunity to actually go and be productive with his time today?
No. Good. Oh, yeah.
Well, my computer is about to die anyways, so that must be the sign.
Yeah, this is Anders. Hey, Pubby, I'm going to give you the first word, and then I'm going to take it from you.
Wait, no. I just want to. No, okay, of course. Go ahead. Kidding. Go ahead.
No, John. No, listen, man. The one thing I love the fact that anytime we can have John on, because his podcast is one of those that I always listen to, because you talk about rabbit holes. The rabbit hole here is when you listen to some of his guests, many of them I never heard of before, and then I listen to them, and then I find them on other podcasts, and it just expands my mind. Okay, so go down the rabbit hole, always expand the mind. Anytime you can have John Vallis on to hang out and bullshit with you and talk Bitcoin, man, their minds being expanded. John, man, thanks for jumping in.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, brother. Feel the same way. I love hanging out.
Including ours, Pubby. Our mind expands when we talk to John Vallis. I just want to do an update because Yellow has been totally outed once again. As we knew before, Yellow left the chat and went, on to sell some of his Bitcoin and totally destroying the scarf to flow model, where so the price actually fell. Pubby shamed him to come back, and of course that has had an effect on the price. So you see, after that, a big drop down around the candle with a red 2 above. Yeah. That's where Yellow came back because Pubby shamed him. and here we are again, price pumping up. Thanks for being back, Yellow. We can thank you for the scarf pump reigniting, but you caused us a big drop, Yellow. Shame on you, but thank you for being back.
John, really, thanks for always coming out, man, hanging out with us. We'll do it more often, man. Let's do it more often.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, I mean, I can't. It's been a year, man. I feel like, how come this hasn't happened again sooner? But hopefully, we'll get another one in before the next Bitcoin conference, and then we'll get to hang out again at the conference even more.
So, question
I love
for
what you guys do, and I love hanging out and chatting. And
likewise.
No, I got one question for you though, John, because it's such a different dynamic. What you have as a podcaster and what you do when you run a Spaces chat. I think you would be fucking brilliant running some Spaces, man. Because the number of people that jump in and jump out. So when do we have the John Vallis Spaces coming up?
I don't know, man. I don't like the format. That's why you don't see me in it very often.
Okay.
I mean, maybe hosting one would be a bit different, but. And no disrespect to anyone who likes them and stuff, but you know, like the type of conversations I like to have, it's like really dialed in and really trying to get somewhere, right? And I find in Spaces, you know, you always got people jockeying to get their word in, and it's inevitable you probably have some chasers in there trying to be heard by people. And I don't know, it's like it never really felt like a great format or one that I enjoyed that much. But I might give one a whirl sometime and see what it feels like to host rather than just listen or speak.
John, I can tell you for 2 months, Pubby was knocking my head saying, Anders, I'm starting a Toxic Caviar Spaces, come in, join. And for 2 months, I'm like, Pubby, my phone is crashing. I don't know. I don't like the format either. I was saying exactly the same as you. And finally, I think, what was it, just last Monday? Is it 1 or 2 weeks ago? I can't remember. So I started joining in as a co-host on the Toxic Happy Hour Spaces. By the way, we're trying to do it Tuesday to Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific time throughout the week. And I just all of a sudden realized how much fun it can be and how we get to meet and have conversations with some of the people that are hanging out in the chat now and some of them that don't because they prefer that format. So I feel now I'm expanding my, network of Bitcoiners that I'm starting to enjoy the relationship with. But yeah, your computer is about to run out, which is
maybe hosting like just having myself and the guest and doing basically a podcast on the space and then opening it up after the formal discussion for like a broader discussion. Maybe that's something to try out.
Yeah. I think you'll enjoy it. It takes some getting used to, but yeah, you're a natural for it, man. You are a natural, and you will reach out. Well, ultimately, I know your goal is to reach out to as many people as possible when it comes to Bitcoin. So keep it open mind.
And one of the things
I'll keep an open mind.
One of the things we do is Pubby and I, we share roles a little bit, and I enjoy how, in general, I feel we really supplement each other because we have different, skill sets.
Complement each other.
We complement. Is that correct? Complement each other, right?
Thank you. Yes.
English is my second language. It's difficult. I'm just a poor immigrant.
Me and Pubby, we fill each other up. Is that what we're going to say next? Yeah.
Ouch.
Compliment.
Yeah.
Compliment each other, dude.
Pubby is reaching the rock pull level. If he doesn't rock pull himself, I'll probably rock pull him. But what I'll say, so complimenting each other here, John. So one of the things I do when we do Spaces chat is I run the music. So every now and again, we play some music like Pump It Up or Get the F Out of Bed, just, and it gives it gives a good hanging out vibe. It's fun.
And can you save the audio? Like, can you port like the audio afterwards? Does it record?
Yes.
Automatically?
Yeah. Apparently, yeah. Dennis Porter apparently the other night
I'm not going to just record it with his own gear. Like,
recorded his own
button in Spaces that you can say like upload to Google Drive or some shit.
Again, we're not professionals, so this is like we're not even doing that. But we should
Yes.
we should record those and then put them
Yeah,
on
you
that podcasting 2.0. And you know, because
There you go.
this
There you
content we've been doing for more than a year now on YouTube, people have been telling us put it on a podcast so they can also just listen without being on YouTube. And,
Yeah, of course.
still we haven't done. You're dealing with two boomers here, John. It is what it is. But we need help. We're reaching out. Somebody help us. By the way, so yeah, as Yellow says, free Vallis, we gotta let you go.
Yellow
ahead,
wants to. Yeah, Yellow wants to get back to his Bitcoin magazine whores, his overmasters. Go ahead, Yellow. We'll catch up with you later. Make some banana bread for me.
We would like that. John, yeah, I think it's a great excuse. My laptop is running out of battery. Like everyone has a power plug, but it's a great way of nicely saying, guys,
it's in the living room, you fuck.
Yeah, sure. Like enough is enough, puppy. John needs to move on. I'm kidding.
His computer is plugged in. It says 100%. It says 100% in front of him. No, we get it, man. We get it. I want to quit too. I really want to quit too.
Yeah.
No.
He's the master rock baller.
It's been an absolute pleasure as usual. I love what you guys are doing. Can't wait to hang in Meat Space again. And
man.
I guess I'll see you at the 100K party.
Bam. Yeah. Just get us on the list.
Amen. Meeting in real life is going to be great. And for those that didn't hear it earlier, if you want to get a ticket to Bitcoin 2022, which is April 6 to 9 in Miami, it was amazing this year in June. It's going to be amazing, even, I guess, better in April because it's not going to be so disgustingly burning hot. There is that code down below where you save 10%. Code Toxic22, obviously. And also, so an apology from my side because Pubby and I were supposed to be on Simply Bitcoin Friday. I was unable to make it. So instead, Hunter Hodl came on instead of me, but they had a blast, Pubby and Hunter Hodl. So you should go check out the, Simply Bitcoin.
Good to go. John, hey, Anders, shut the fuck up.
Yes. Yes. Let's go.
Thanks for coming by, man.
Yeah. All right. See you, John. Thanks for coming on, man. Looking forward to seeing you in real life. Catch you on the next one.
Brother.
Bye.
All right.
Yeah. Dude, he's so great.
Yeah.
Pubby, we're still live. Just want to put it out there. We're still live, just so you know.
Good. Yeah, I got to take off too here in a minute.
Yeah, I know. And I think we shared everything we want to share. So I guess tomorrow, 11 a.m. PST, 2 Eastern time, which is 6 p.m. Central European time, I'm just guessing. It's a little bit tricky. But we're trying to do YouTube every Monday at that time. And we're trying to do Toxic Happy Hour Twitter Spaces every day, Tuesday to Friday, as well, where we have fun. We play music. I think next Monday you said you can't go on YouTube, right?
Yeah, well, if travel schedule is to be believed, I'll be traveling all day, dude. Yeah, there's no way. I'm going to fucking Africa, man. It's a long day.
Awesome. But
hey,
we have Ben Kaufman coming up, I think 2 weeks from now, right? That's when we're going to get Ben Kaufman, the young gun.
Yeah, been too long for Ben, man. I love Ben.
I know.
Great
we had him on earlier this year, but it's going to be great. Love that guy. So I guess the final thing is, don't store more value in dirty fiat currency that you can afford to lose, because that's a built-in policy, and they convince you even that, hey, it's good for you. We're going to steal the value of your savings. Oh, thank you very much. No. And that's why we Bitcoin, because we want to preserve the value of the labor we provided instead of handing it over to central banks. Okay, that's how you. Right?
Shout out to MG Smith 4, man. Love you, dude.
Absolutely.
It's great to hey, come back to Miami, man. Come back to Miami next year, brother, so we can have another beer.
Absolutely. Pubby, I'll see you tomorrow on Spaces.
Will do, man.
Right?
We're on there. Yep.
We're on there. All right, let's go, man. Yeah, see you in the next one. Ciao bello.
Ciao, bella.